Danny's fourth studio album sounds like a good mixture of sounds between the hybrid and the Triple X era, with the experimentalism of Atrocity Exhibition, which I consider to be his best album. He flows pretty incredibly on the majority of the boom bap beats all over the album, which is executive produced by Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest fame, and he could really bring a tighter approach from Danny to this record. All the features and the co-producers also shine, especially JPEG Mafia, Run the Jewels, and Abong Jawar, with his incredible vocals on some songs. The real opener of the album is Theme Song. Both the string sample and the incredibly addicting hook and one-liners make this track a true anthem. Dirty Laundry is an excellent way of building even more momentum, and he brings back his comedic side, not only here but on other tracks in the second half as well. Free Tears is a solid collab with Run the Jewels, with some glorifying production from Peggy, which is the true standout of the song in my opinion. Beauty and the Beast is very nauseating in a good way, but while short, it didn't keep me interested for long enough other than the beat itself. Savage Nomad is more explosive and probably one of the high points of the 40-minute runtime. Once again, full of funny one-liners, some groovy guitar strings and such. Best Life is another standout on this thing, and it shows that Danny has made some progress in his life, and I'm really happy to see that he has surpassed his Dark Matters shown on his last full-length album. Nero Spiritual sounds like a match made in heaven. The production from Flying Lotus and Thundercat is phenomenal, and the JPEG Mafia feature sort of places him in a 2000s Pharrell-like hook, which surprisingly does wonders. To finish You Know What I'm Saying off, we have Combat, with Danny flexing with the surprise appearance of Q-Tip and Consequence, and rightfully so, because it sounds like something a Tribe Called Quest would have recorded for their last record. Overall, while not hitting the same peaks as Atrocity Exhibition, it certainly shows that Danny is at its tightest and at its happiest too, and unsurprisingly for a Danny Brown record, it's a joy to listen to. After putting out one of the best indie rock records of the decade and a 3-year hiatus, we have Angel Olsen's new record, All Mirrors. And the indie rock sound palettes from that record are nearly gone and substituted with a more orchestral, grand, and epic style that complements Angel's very love and dream-centered lyrics. The singles Lark and All Mirrors are groundbreaking, sonically colossal, and make them some of her best material yet. And other standouts like Spring, Summer, and Chance also play to the same advantages, making all 5 of them the highlights of the record. And while I am extremely satisfied with those 5 songs, they are kind of also the problem of the record. How though? Because the rest of the record is not as epic, not as incredible in all fronts as these 5. What's a new love cassette when you have a Lark or a Spring? So that makes this record inconsistent, unfortunately, which is something that has never happened in any of her previous records. And what a shame it is, since Angel is taking the biggest risk of her discography with this new record. Still, there's much to praise about this new Angel Olsen album, so give it a shot. While I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, it's still pretty enjoyable while it's on. Here it is, after several delays, name changes, and the traditional type of controversy that the man can't seem to not provoke. The long-awaited 9th studio album from one of the most pivotal and creative minds in the history of hip-hop, Kanye West. Not only is this a complete shift in terms of the subject matter, which is all about religion, Christianity, and embracing God and stuff, using the sounds and characteristics of gospel music, but also in quality, which is a bad thing in comparison to the rest of his incredible discography. Sure, I can give it to the team involved with GIK's production that, in fact, comes out as stellar on a few occasions. Due to the grandiosity of the instrumentation or the vocals that are normally credited to the Sunday service choir that Kanye endorsed on his live shows over the last 5 or 6 months. Prime examples of such virtues are seen on tracks like Salah and Use This Gospel, that features the reunion of the legendary rap group Clips, composed of brothers Pusha T and Malice, now known as No Malice since he's a Christian rapper now, but also Kenny G with a phenomenal sax solo. But what is bafflingly mediocre about this project, apart from the mixing that is constantly being patched from what I've gathered, is the lyrics. Nearly every single religious line on Jesus is King feels phoned in, meaningless, and underdeveloped especially. It almost makes me believe that instead of making a proper gospel album like he intended and paying a justified tribute to God and Christianity as a form of inspiration and security for him, Kanye uses it as a replacement of, let's say, his own mental health treatment, which he vocally speaks of. It's not like he found safety in religion just now. That is an aspect that has been present throughout his life and his discography, but is now brought to the table as a way to cope with his bipolar disorder and even his ego. Tracks like Follow God and On God really develop this part that I'm talking about, and even on tracks that display his personality, Kanye either speaks nonsense or it sounds like he's making a parody album of the leaked Yandhi, like on Hands On or on Closed on Sunday, where he speaks about Chick-fil-A. Number 1 with the lemonade. This is the same man that was able to put out My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy 9 years ago. Just let that sink in. But back to GIK. The potential is there. The ideas are there. The concept is intriguing to say the least. But sadly, it all feels forced, underdeveloped, and extremely disappointing, making it difficult for anyone to classify it as a worthwhile release, especially after all the Yandhi buzz. And out of all odds that were in favor of Kanye, none of them were able to make this a release that's on the same level, scope, determination, and especially quality of the rest of his discography, making Jesus is King my least favorite solo Kanye record. So Pony is the follow-up to 2017's Apricot Princess, a project that I loved, to be honest. It made me excited about Rex's next few projects, and Pony feels kind of inconsistent in comparison to Apricot Princess. You have huge highlights like 10 out of 10, Face to Face, Pluto Projector as well, for example. But then I think that in some tracks, the autotune really snoozes you and makes it kind of confusing at points. Also, the lack of a narrative doesn't help the album that much. I think that the story presented in Apricot Princess is way more appealing to the listener. Again, there's some few piano passages and ballads like Laser Lights or Stressed Out that don't really do much. It Gets Better is probably my least favorite track of the bunch. It's pretty auto-tuney and weird in a bad way. And for a 40-minute album, it lacks the scope, the scale of his debut. I think that, yes, you do have moments that you do seem to catch a little bit of the orchestration, of the grandiosity of some of the tracks out of Apricot Princess. Like, for example, in the last section of Pluto Projector, I think that tracks like Never Had the Balls showcase that very cheeky songwriting that Rex has. But otherwise, I think that I feel kind of disappointed with this one, unfortunately. So, FKA Twigs, Magdalene, finally out after 4 years of hiatus since Melissa, her last EP, dropped, and it's been 5 years since LP1, her debut album, which in my opinion is the best R&B record of the decade. But let's focus on Magdalene over here, because this is a phenomenal record. I don't think it is at the same level as LP1 in terms of quality and highlights, but still, it's amazing. Right off the bat, Forgotten Eyes sounds like something out of a new wave album out of the 90s, something that Kanye would have done. Home With You is a beautiful ballad that really kicks off the album well. After that, you get Sad Day, which is probably my favorite song on the entire record, other than the closer, which we'll talk about in a minute. It is powerful. The production is very out there, very similar to Arca's production on LP1, very electronic based, and it really complements the sentiment that Twigs is transmitting to the listener. Holy Terrain is the only track here with a collab, in this case Future. It is interesting, but it's not a staple. In Future's part, while listenable, doesn't do much, in my opinion. Then we have Mary Magdalene, with Twigs comparing herself to the figure Mary Magdalene, and how she is a woman of freedom and of work and of hard dedication and everything, and I think it's a beautiful comparison. And plus you have Fallen Alien, which is out of this world. The chorus in the background is orgasmic even. You have Twigs just destroying her mind out with vocals that are so disturbing, just like the beat itself. Then you have Mirrored Heart, which is, to be honest, one of the most heartbreaking things that she has ever penned down. Daybed is fine while it's on, but it didn't really do much for me, to be honest. And what can I say about Cellophane that hasn't been said before? It's perfect. It's literally the perfect closer to this album. It's heartbreaking, it's sad, it's devastating, it completely annihilates you while you're listening to it. It hurts, but it's perfect. It's quite possibly one of my favorite closers of 2019. And overall, it's one of the best records of the year. I mean, she has done it again. It is her most emotional album yet. I think it's her most personal album yet. This is a complete revelation in terms of her personality and her life, even throughout the last 5 or 6 years, and her relationships with Robert Pattinson, Shia LaBeouf, etc. And I think it's a beautiful tale of love, of heartbreak, of everything that makes Twigs such an interesting personality to follow and to appreciate this decade.